With that being said, what is going on, everybody? If you don't know, now you do know. You're tuned in to a very special edition of the HFWB podcast series. This is your host, Clifton Pope, and we have ourselves a nice, wonderful guest with me today. And we're going to basically jump into her overall world of wellness. And what I mean by that, she's basically certified fitness and nutrition coach with a focus on a wellness strategy, right? With all the virtual programs, digital resources to help implement and improve your exercise routine, as well as basically enhance your overall quality of your food choices and stuff. So, what I'm saying is, she's basically a certified fitness trainer, a nutrition specialist. She's basically an overall foodie, a gym rat. And if you don't know who I'm talking about right now, I want you to meet my wonderful friend, the lovely Miss Roseada White, welcoming her aboard to the HFWB podcast series. Roseada, what is going on today?
Hey, welcome. I'm thankful. Thank you for welcoming me. Welcome everybody. I think that's what I wanted to say. But I'm just, listen, leaders like we, that's how we do. So,
Yes.
I am doing fantastic. I am thankful to be here. I'm thankful for another opportunity to be able to not only share a little bit of my story, but to be able to explain how a little bit of my story has in turn become such a gift for others. It is my honor and privilege and pleasure to do the work that I do. So thank you for
And
having
I'm,
me.
I'm glad that you touched on that as well, Rosetta, because that was actually going to be my first question for everybody who's listening to the HFWB podcast series and who wants to know who Rosetta White excuse me, and what's the background story and what led you basically into this lifestyle of just not only just fitness training, but just overall proper nutrition. Kind of break that down for the people who are listening to the podcast today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So there was, I want to say in retrospect, that just to kind of start at the end, there's always been something whispering. We hear all the time about someone having a calling.
Mm-hmm.
And I never understood that until it happened to me. And how it came up for me is that I was always hearing in the back of my mind that people need a better way. I always found in whatever endeavor I've embarked upon, something always whispered they need a better way. And where
Mm-hmm.
that started for me was after I got out of culinary school. And I went to culinary school because I'm a foodie, like you mentioned, and I always have been. I mean, from the time I've been watching Food Network since I was in high school, and so and that was a long time ago. That was a very long time ago. Okay, and so really, it's just always been a passion of mine to see what I could do to honestly just manipulate food. And I want to see how creative I can get. I want to see how if I can make what's in the book match what's on the plate in reality. Like I've always been curious that way.
Right.
And so that took me on a journey to cooking and catering and running my own business. So again, leadership and entrepreneurship has been in my on my resume for a long time.
Right.
So as I'm cooking and catering, again, that whisper came. You need to show people a better way because
Mhm.
how do you support them in having a good experience with their food without compromising their health?
Yes.
And so that took me to going back to school because my first degree, again, culinary, after the which I went into nutrition and dietetics. And so it was very helpful. I realized how much of an advantage I was at because we can give the healthy recommendations, but if it's not something that is going to be attractive to people, let's just be honest. They may not opt in. They may opt in to begin with because the inherent need to maybe get a desired result
Yeah.
may drive them. Will it keep them though? Is it
Exactly.
sustainable? And I believe in the power of emphasizing sustainability so that you
Right.
can stopping and starting. And
Yes.
so being able to combine my culinary experience with my nutrition and dietetic education was a fantastic marriage. And while I was in school for nutrition, I found myself spending a lot of time at the gym. I was going through some life changes at the time, and the gym was It
Your
was my
safe
therapy.
haven.
It
Your
was my
safe
safe
haven
haven. It
where you
was
can
right,
relax and
right.
stuff and
Yeah,
unwind.
and really just right, exactly. And just whatever little me time. That was the me time. That was the me time.
Exactly.
And so then I started getting results. And so then people were like, well, how do I get results like you're getting results? And so I said,
Mm,
hold on, I'll be right back. So I went and studied up on what it is I need to do in order to train people in the gym or in their, on their routine. And then
mm.
I brought that back. So now we've rolled in the culinary. So we can make the food taste good and desirable and all of that. We can know what to do with the ingredients that we have. That's another aspect. And then we add to that the nutrition component. So now we get to choose foods that we enjoy without compromising our health. And then we have education and support and resources, guidance, recommendations on how to move our body in a way that works for us. That
Yes.
is that is what actually to kind of roll into my brand, lifestyle fitness training. We
Hmm.
are on a mission to train our minds and our bodies to be fit for the lives we want to live. That is how the culinary and the nutrition and the movement rolls together.
No, and it's a great segue you just did there, Rosada, because that was actually going to be my next question. What led into that, and to add to everything that you said, it's like is something about following like a particular calling. I know, like with myself, whenever I was working in the pharmacy field as a pharmacy technician during the worst of the pandemic and seeing all these people coming in sick and everything, something just dawned on me as far as like what happened to the natural healing perspective? What happened to the holistic approach and all that stuff? And like you, I was like, okay, hold up, I'll be right back. Let me do some study and some research. And then it was
Mm-hmm.
like mixing that as far as just my overall passion of just exercising within itself, because I've always been, I wouldn't say a gym rat, but I've always been tied to the gym since, growing up high school, having to like work out and of course to stay in shape for sports and everything. And
Right.
then of course, growing up, coming back to the gym being my safe haven, my place to unwind and everything. Just like yourself, everyone would always come up to me, man, Clifton, you're always in the gym, you're always in shape. I'm trying to get on your level and all that. Again, hold up, let me be right back. Then I brought in the whole introduction, of course, the primal pattern movements and everything. And it's like, being able to do six of the six primal pattern movements without any pain, dysfunction, or compromise within your body, if you could do that in a primal setting environment, then you could pretty much do any workout that any kind of trainer, any kind of exercise program is throwing at you. You could be able to execute it perfectly. And it became literally just a lifestyle, ironically enough, like your brand, lifestyle fitness training. Like what I do with health, fitness, wealth, business is kind of like just bringing the idea of health, wealth, knowledge of self and just turning that into a lifestyle and training it to where it basically becomes a way of life for life.
Exactly.
And it's a perfect segue as far as you mentioning lifestyle fitness training, as far as like the overall mission and purpose and everything. And to kind of clarify that and break that down into details a little bit more for the listeners. What is lifestyle fitness training? What is the mission? What is the purpose? And basically, what's next for lifestyle fitness
Mm-hmm.
training?
This is a fantastic. I love this conversation like so much
This is a great question.
because
It's a great
yes.
conversation indeed. Yes.
So when we talk about lifestyle fitness training again, the philosophy is we're training our minds and our bodies to be fit for the lives we want to live. Why
Yes.
that's important is because there are a lot of reasons why it's a good idea to create supportive nutrition habits. There are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of reasons why it would be appropriate to incorporate more exercise. There are a lot of reasons as to why we need to, really emphasize time management or stress management or like all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is where the wellness strategy comes in because how many, I bet anyone who's listening, stop me if you've heard this one. How many recipes, workouts, or exercises or programs have you screenshot, bookmarked, saved, pinned, what have you? How many?
That's the truth right there. We've
Okay.
all been there. I've been there
Yes.
myself. Yeah.
Right, right. Oh yeah, I'm gonna use that recipe. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good work. That's a good exercise to incorporate into
Mhm.
my next
It's like
workout.
every other day searching Instagram and all that
Right.
stuff. Yes.
I literally have a client, she belongs to my wellness membership, where she talked about that was one of the things that she would do. She goes, I would see an exercise on Instagram and I bookmark it and I would go to the gym and try to do it and it's too hard or it's like it doesn't stick around because it's like it's novel, it
Yeah.
doesn't stay in the routine. And so then
Yeah.
but if it was too hard or too challenging, then it's like, you know what, I give up.
Trial and error. Trial and
Because
error.
right. And then here's where, and I know this isn't something that we tend to acknowledge or even know to acknowledge. We we think that we can just kind of play this whack-a-mole game with our wellness. And
Mm.
all of the steps that we're taking, if they're not designed with some intention or clarity in mind or a framework, or your why, if you've not started there, if it isn't deep enough, you're going to continue to be on this hamster wheel of let me
Yeah.
try this, let me see if this works, let me do this cleanse, let me do this fast, let me do this challenge, let me do. You ought to be exhausted if you're not.
Yeah.
It makes sense that you will be absolutely exhausted and be ready to throw your hands up, or worse yet, worse than throwing your hands up, going to extremes to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so if you are in a position to be able to really have a framework, have some systems to create a shift that you can sustain,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to win. You're
Yeah.
going to win. That's what I want. I want to see people win. I'm on a mission to teach you how to fish, not just give you fish so that you can eat for the duration. If you have the skills to be able to create that shift yourself, no one can stop you.
Mm-hmm. I
I'm that
agree.
that's yeah. So that is my come from. That's the mission. And if we have and then to take it a step further, specifically, I who I support or who I found and I've owned this where we talk about niching, right? As an entrepreneur or as a business owner. And
Yeah.
I know that the tools and resources that I have, they could help everybody and have helped many people. I realize that it is my responsibility to call out the leaders and take a stand for the leaders.
Right.
And those that are fellow entrepreneurs like myself, those who are business owners, those who are in high levels of leadership, because we're the ones who, because we pour into all of the people, we are often lacking that same nurturing for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have the luxury of doing that because we're responsible for too much.
Exactly.
But if you don't know where to start when it comes to that, or if you don't have the capacity to hold yourself accountable because you're holding a bunch of other people accountable, you have an appreciation and a respect for accountability, then maybe it's time for you to bring on someone who can support you in taking care of yourself so that you can effectively lead, guide, and motivate.
I agree with everything you just said, Roseanne, and to add on a couple of more things, I'll even take it a step further. It's like beginning with the end in mind, right? Like, what is your end game as far as where you're trying to get to? Because anybody could commit not only just to better lifestyle training within fitness or better eating habits with nutrition, but do you have the consistency to stay the course until you get to that end game? And it's just like, enjoy the journey within it, like don't worry about the actual destination, because I tell my clients this all the time: appreciate the journey, appreciate the stepping stones, appreciate the milestone achievements, because you worked hard to get to that point within itself. It's like, don't just brush it off because you're so
Right.
focused on the end in mind and everything. Just
Exactly.
appreciate the stepping stones, because it's like, hey, it's something you could build off of, and it's like that confidence booster and stuff like that. And it's like, it'll help you feel a whole lot better when you get to your destination. And at the end of the day, when you do get to your destination, you're going to be thinking either two things. You're going to be thinking, what's next, or is there more to it? And it's like, that's why I always tell people, always appreciate the journey, because you never know what you can learn within the journey. You could figure things out that you never thought you would be able to figure out, for so to speak.
Absolutely. Oh yes, it excuse me, it definitely, this journey has the ability to give you this, it superimposes your thought process. So
Right.
the progression that you have in the gym or on your, as you're choosing foods, these things translate into how do we show up in our other aspects of our lives.
Right.
And there's something to be said, and I'll say this, when as you were speaking about, yeah, how people, if they can appreciate the journey, then that's his own reward kind of scenario.
Yeah,
I'm
it
going
is.
to take it a step further and say a lot of times why it's hard to get someone to buy in, or it's a challenge to get someone to buy into appreciating the journey, is because they don't have clarity as to why they started. And
Mm.
they don't, and if you don't have clarity, then you can't make a commitment. And
Right.
if you can't make a commitment, then you can't be held accountable. And if you can't be held accountable,
That's it.
chances are you're not going to follow through. And then
Exactly.
at the first sight of a stumbling block, you've tapped out.
Yeah.
That's the gap that I see. This
No.
is why when we're in the gym, we're going hard, you've hired a trainer, you've done all the things, or you join a program, and the minute life happens, that's the first thing on the chopping block, because you have not tapped into what your why is deep enough to know that that gets to be a priority.
Mm. I like that. I like that. And actually segue into my next question. Is there like a particular client that you've had to where you've had to like help establish all those things and help them overcome like that first step in that roadblock and help get them on course within their journey as far as just helping them achieve the results that they wanted, whether it was losing weight, gaining muscle, or just having overall energy? Is there a couple of clients you could think of that came to your mind where it was even challenging for yourself, but at the same time made that journey much more worthy as far as validating what you're doing is worth it?
Hmm. So one thing I will tell you is that it's very seldom. This is going to sound very audacious, pretentious, even.
Okay.
What's the word? Arrogant. It may border on arrogance.
Okay.
Excuse me. It's very seldom. Now, I may have a client that comes to me with a challenging situation,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very seldom that I have a challenging client.
Mm.
And the reason why is because just like they get to choose what who they who gets to support them, I get to choose too. And it is my responsibility to ensure that we are a right fit for one another, so that
Yeah.
we don't have this push pull of energies or of ideals on top of the challenges that you showed up with.
Mm.
So yeah, that's so important,
It
because
is.
if I can't, if we're not able to really connect on a level to where as you understand, you can appreciate why I am holding you accountable in this way, or if you can't appreciate why this is the recommendation that I'm giving you, or if there is this constant, oh, I hear you, but I think this will be a better idea. Okay, that's I and I get that, and there are those people,
Yeah.
and so again, when it comes to the challenge, I do my very level best to ensure that folks know how I operate, what my coaching style is like, what my philosophy, the way in which I coach, the path that we'll take. It's tougher. Out of full transparency, it's tough for a lot of folks to conceptualize the path that I take, because it's not like what other. It doesn't make sense that, oh, you're a fitness trainer, but like you're telling me that we're not going to start there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's not your root issue. Maybe you need help with improving your sleep hygiene before we can talk about why, because that might be the reason why you can't manage to get yourself up and go to the gym.
Yeah.
Or if maybe it needs to be fixing the sleep so that you don't produce all this cortisol that's making it hard for you to lose fat.
Yeah.
There are these things. So if essentially all that to say, if a person comes to me and we can flush all this out and I can let you know, hey, listen, my way of doing this may seem unconventional, but it's actually the best process for you because we've been putting the cart before the horse for too long.
Yeah.
We've been signing up for these things, not knowing the root issue of why it is we're having these challenges. And what would it look like if we just take a step back, assess the real issue, and then move forward there, which will perpetuate things that you know what, if you working with me, you may find that, oh, you know what, this, I don't know, this maybe an app that you downloaded that was a workout app that you never open. Maybe as a result of the work that we do, the wellness strategy, maybe that's a catalyst for you to say, you know what, I was motivated to open that app today. Or I had the energy to open that app to do a workout out of it.
Right.
You know, and so, okay. So I do. So, okay. So that's part one. Part two, I think about a client that stands out to me, and she's been my client for 2 years now.
Okay.
And it's a fantastic relationship. One of the things that I can say for sure, if I do have the right client, again, I teach you how to fish. I'm not trying to keep you, dangling on and, not knowing how to really navigate your wellness on your own.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes more so of, I become part of your personal board of directors.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. So I got that actually from a client where they said to me, you're part of my personal board of directors. You are sitting at this table to hold me accountable to make sure that I am nourishing my body and resting my body and working my body when it's necessary and
Like
hydrating my body and all of those things.
I
Not that
like
they
that.
aren't highly intelligent, highly capable, highly competent. This isn't your lane. So you need me to support you there, and that's okay. It's not a shortcoming. You
Mm-hmm.
realize that not only there's strength in all your weaknesses, but you also know who to call when you need a how done. Sometimes it's not about, it's who, not how sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because we all know what changes we need to make. I
Yeah.
literally just finished with doing a wellness roadmap audit with someone who, again, they could tell me, I know what to do. Okay, well, this is emphasizing that even though you know what to do, you're going about it in a way that doesn't serve you. So we get to flush out every aspect of your wellness, and we get to take the next steps toward making sure that you are prioritizing the right aspect so that it can support the others. So, okay, 2 years ago, new client, type 2 diabetic,
Mm-hmm.
A1C 10.2 or 3, something like that. So that's if we don't know about A1C, and that is how your insulin is regulated through your blood and your body, and or it's a marker. It's a measurement, unit of measurement. And so if it's too high, then you're dealing with complications. You're dealing with a host of things that could be a whole nother podcast episode, right?
Right.
And so she came to me, insulin's high or A1C's high. I said to her, okay, you know, we flush out some things. I take her through this kind of flushing out things, making sure we're great on everything. One of the issues that she was having was that she was not eating breakfast.
Oh wow.
She wasn't eating breakfast. And when I told her, I said, we got to get you to start eating breakfast. And she said, yeah, that's not the thing. That's not something that I'm going to be able to do.
Already
Because
being
this
resistant
and whatever.
towards being defensive. I see where this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
going. Yep.
Yeah. So I said, okay, I understand why you feel like this is something that you are incapable of doing. Let's talk about how that's not been serving you. Let's talk about, but also, I'm not going to make you go from I'm not eating breakfast at all to putting this big spread in front of you, because I know that it's not going to work. I know it's probably what you've tried and it's not going to work. So what is the lowest hanging fruit, as it were, that we can reach for that can start to wake your metabolism back up, and in turn start to regulate your insulin and all of those things. So now, fast forward, we got an A1C of about maybe 6.8 or so, 6.87, kind of
Mm-hmm.
trends there. she can set her watch by her appetite now. And
Mm,
breakfast is absolutely a part of the equation.
I love
And and then as a byproduct, now we have fat loss.
that. Mm.
As a byproduct, now she felt, listen, we didn't talk about actually her stepping into the gym and creating a positive or a consistent schedule with that until probably a good 6 to 8 months into her program with me.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
Because we needed to establish making sure that her nutrition and other aspects of her wellness had integrity before I put you in the gym and start to exhaust you. This is the path
Yeah.
that she needed to go. And so as I continue to meet her where she was, now she's rocking and rolling.
What you basically just did, Rosada, you basically just tapped into your client's ability to say hello to Dr. Diet as far as just figuring out what works from her from a nutritional aspect. That way you could attack all the other, I like to call the four doctors, of course, Dr. Diet, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Happy, and Dr. Movement, because all of them are aligned together as like spokes on a wheel. And if one of those spokes is out of that wheel, it's like it becomes like a little triangle and it becomes harder to push that wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Two of them are out, then you could just forget about moving the wheel within itself. So what you
Right.
basically did, you tapped into her doctor diet, told her, hey, this is what you need to do. Now we can assess all the other things, hence figure out what will help you have your quiet time, what will help you, of course, be happy, what will help you, of course, get you moving better and all that stuff. And it's like, for everybody who's listening to the HFWB podcast series at this current moment and who is wondering, how could I be the healthiest, the happiest, whole individual that I can be as far as just for my overall well-being and everything? What would be your three go-to key pieces of advice you would tell them right now off the top of your head?
Okay. Don't try to do everything at once.
That's a good place to start. Try to do everything at once. Exactly.
Because it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You get overwhelmed and you throw the whole day away. You're actually you've thrown the day away before noon, trying to do all the things at once.
Yep.
Yes. So that's the biggest one I feel like. And then also focus on what you have in order to get what you lack.
Mm.
Don't worry about what, and I've said this so many times, I'm recorded somewhere saying it, I know it. Here's what I mean. Here's an example. If you want bigger biceps, okay, you want a stronger body, let's put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to behoove you to really like avoid picking up weight. Don't say, hey, listen, I'm not strong enough. I want to be strong enough, but like I'm not strong enough to do that. Well, focus on what you can do. Can you pick up 5 pounds? If the answer is yes, and I venture to say it's yes, my 8-year-old can pick up 5 pounds and more. If you're willing, so that now we're not talking about ability, we're talking about readiness and willingness. If you're willing, if you're ready to pick up 5 pounds, then guess what? That's going to build your muscles so that you can get stronger. You want to pick up bigger dumbbells? Start with what you can pick up in order to get to what you want to pick up.
Right.
Don't focus on what you don't have. When you focus on what you don't have, you'll continue to lack. When you focus on what you do have, you'll get what you lack.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I love that.
That's the advice I would give. So let's see. Did I name 3 things? Don't try to do all the things at once. Focus on what you have to get what you lack. And remember why you started.
And for everybody who's listening to the HFWB podcast series, who's wondering how they can be the healthiest, happiest, whole individual you can be, rewind that part that Roseada just said. Don't try to focus on everything at once because you're going to burn yourself out in the process. Focus on what you can do versus what you can't do. That way you can build up the strengths on what you can do, and that way you could go back to what you can't do and turn it into what you can eventually can do. And at the same time, just remember why you started. Remember why you committed to the overall process, because that's going to take you a long way at the end of the day. With that being said, Roseada, we're actually at the point in my podcast where I'm going to ask you a list of questions that I usually ask everybody who comes on, just to, of course, pick your brain, have the people
For
get to
sure.
know you a little bit more. First question is simple. What is the first thing you do or think of every single day you wake up?
What am I gonna eat? Well, no, that's not entirely true. Um, what time am I gonna eat? Because I typically know what I'm gonna eat every day. Like I just do. It's about based on how my schedule is, where's the food gonna fall, right? So it's
Yeah.
never about if I'm gonna eat, it's when, right? And so that's one thing I think about. I couldn't what where I was kind of teetering in my head was it's
That's
between two things. It's that and it's honestly, how can I show up today to be a better coach and be a better business owner than I was yesterday?
Those are two great thoughts to have to jumpstart any day without a doubt, Rosetta. My next question for you is this: is when you think of health and wealth, they're basically hand in hand, two sides of the coin type of thing. But in your own personal eyes, Rosetta, what does health and wealth mean to you?
Mhm. Health to me perpetuates wealth.
Exactly.
We've seen, I mean, it's just that straightforward to me. I mean, we could deep dive, but we've seen the inverse. We've
Hmm.
seen folks compromising their health to chase wealth.
Hmm.
Um, we we will forfeit our time. We will disrespect our boundaries. We will invest in things that don't align for the sake of getting further ahead from a financial standpoint.
Hmm.
And then if we've heard many a successful business person say, or who whatever that they end up doing, when they fall ill or they lose a certain faculty or what have you, they'll tell you that there's nothing worth more than that.
Mm.
I and what it means for me to really close the loop on this, Clifton, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person that wish they had regarded their health early on. I don't. I refuse
I'm
to be
right
that
there
person.
with you on that. That's the truth. That's basically what motivates me to keep on going every single day. As far as like, I don't want to be that person, having to like be relying on all these medications as I get older. I want to still be like, I look at my dad, like, my dad is 60 years old, still
Okay.
bench pressing almost 200 pounds. I'm
Love
trying to
that.
get on that level.
Right.
That's what I'm
Right.
trying to do.
Yep.
For
Yep.
sure.
And guess what? He is, because of the quality of life that he's created for himself, again, you're unstoppable. You get to be unstoppable because you have chosen you, and that perpetuates everything else. Every other venture, every other investment, every other anything else that you do. You can all the things that you think you're going to do and you decide to continue to ignore your health, you can't do any of those things without this vehicle.
Exactly.
You can't.
When it comes to this overall world of entrepreneurship both of us live in, Rosetta, what defines an entrepreneur to you?
Ooh, this is gonna step on some toes. What defines an entrepreneur for me is knowing when to work in the business, knowing when to work on the business. It involves leading the charge, leading your business with integrity,
Hmm.
and not forgetting the purpose for which you started, or else you're going to end up compromising yourself, or you're not going to sustain it if you don't. Again, it's kind of it mirrors the the wellness journey.
Yeah.
Remember why you started. Like if it was really for you to carry out, it's you'll be gifted the resources or as the opportunities to gain these things. All
Exactly.
that's what I know that's something that makes the most sense for me from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And also, here's something else. Everybody's not your audience. Your family, your hometown, your your friends. I don't care if you know that they need what you have. That's you have a responsibility to show up as a business owner. And if family ends up having to be patrons or clients or customers, okay, but it's not the flip side. It's not them patronizing you because of who you are and what they know about you. That's not their responsibility. You have a responsibility to show up as your authentic self, to take a stand for the people that you actually should be serving
Mm-hmm.
on a regular basis consistently. So that that's it for me. And then I think too, work-life balance is important. I know with and accountability and just managing your time and being willing to show up for yourself even when it gets tough, because there are many circumstances where it can be, it feels like, you know what, the easy route is just to tap out. What'd you
Yeah.
do it for? You know?
Just
So
Yeah, to sum it up perfectly, Rosetta, you got to stand for something or you're going to fall for anything, pretty much.
yeah.
As the
And
world.
in this case, you'll fall for your own limiting beliefs that make you think that you've got to be at a certain level or that you've got to do what somebody else is doing. This is not what this is about.
Yeah,
Why did you show up in this space? Can
yeah,
you hold yourself accountable when the chips are down? Can you hold yourself accountable when you have a $5,000 month, or as it's the same as, can you hold yourself accountable when you're having a $500 month?
yeah. It goes both ways, without a
Mm-hmm.
doubt. Now we're switching into our segment I like to call either or, where I'll ask you either or, and you pick which one you prefer out of the choices, of course.
Okay,
My
got
first
it.
one is this: loyalty or respect?
Respect.
Would you rather live in space or live in the ocean?
Mm. Space.
Would you rather be famous and poor or anonymous and rich?
Anonymous and rich. Period.
Yes, since we are on a health and wellness topic, I'm going to ask you this. Would you prefer bench press or overhead press?
Mm. Bench press, because I have to create more of a mind muscle connection with the bench press. Like, yeah, in order to engage properly for me, the form has got to be spot on. And yeah. Mhm.
That's good. That's a good point, and I agree with you on that one. Um, bicep curls or tricep dips?
Ooh. Curls. I do, and because of that I'll do dips more than that, because I know that if I ignore them, then I'll end up with these bat wings that I don't want.
Very good.
No,
Very good point.
that's just not for me. So I have big arms to begin with, so like I have like I think if they're not like on some level defined, then it just, for me, it's just not a good look for me. Okay, so
Gotcha.
yeah, I still do the dips, but I prefer the bicep curls.
Squats or deadlifts?
Deadlifts.
I like that.
Yep.
Would you rather dance to every song or sing to every song?
Dance.
Now, picture this scenario, Rosetta, right? You're on a deserted island and you had the opportunity to just listen to five of your favorite music artists. It doesn't matter the genre, you can have their whole entire catalog. Who would those five artists be?
Okay. So Sade,
Okay.
Blue Six.
All right.
You said five?
Five, yes.
Okay. Okay, Sade, Blue Six. Boney James.
Love some Boney James.
Let's see. Nirvana
I love Nirvana.
and Nina Simone.
You would have a very chilled and relaxed atmosphere on that deserted island to where
Absolutely.
people will either gravitate towards it or either want to hang out with you there in the meantime, and then until it's time to take you off that deserted island, without a doubt. But overall, since you are a foodie, of course, Rosada, I have to ask you this. What is your favorite go-to meal?
Go-to meal.
Yes,
Go-to meal.
yes.
Um, Salmon Caesar.
Hmm, that's not bad. That,
Yeah.
that, that actually sounds really good, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, From a traveling aspect, Rosetta, where is the favorite place that you have traveled to so far, and where is a place you would like to travel to that you haven't been to yet?
Okay. The, my favorite place that I've traveled to. Mm, huh. Um, Oddly, and it's random, but Buffalo, New York. I really like because I live in Cleveland, Ohio,
Mhm.
and it's very much like a blue collar kind of town, and
That's what
it's
they
just
say.
fun to hang out there. And then it's not far from um, Buffalo, Niagara, which is wine country, and so like yeah, and I definitely. I think that when I retire from all of this, I mean, the lifestyle still will exist, but when I retire and I'm just kind of chilling out, then I want to see if I can try to be a sommelier. So, because I love wine tasting a lot. So let me see. Uh, and what's one place that I would like to go?
Yes.
I've not been to St. Martin, and I know that
Okay.
it's a fantastic and beautiful place. So that's somewhere I've always wanted to go. And also Tuscany.
Not bad choices at all. Not bad choices. And we're all busy people at the end of the day, Rosetta. We really are. But whenever you're not doing all the stuff that you're doing on a regular basis, what are
Mhm.
some of the things you like to do, say hobbies, for instance, that you like to do that many people don't know you like to do?
Mm. I like to read Stephen King.
Hmm.
I've read many, like probably the vast majority of his novels. Let's see, and short stories. I love watching my son play tennis. He is going to do amazing things, and we love going to tennis tournaments with him, like just going to different ones, like tennis in the land was there was a tennis tournament as a qualifier. We went to the Cincinnati Open. We're we keep saying we need to get over to the US Open, which we will. So like we love tennis. We love tennis. And let's see what else. Well, cooking. I love cooking, just cooking for the family.
Mhm.
I love cooking brunch in particular. Yes.
Gotcha.
And let's see what other of my hobbies. Mm, yeah, I think those are them. I think those are them. Yeah.
Yeah, that works out perfectly. I mean, and book it next year, 2024 US Open, you and your son. I'm calling it right now in the
Yep. Yep.
HFWB podcast series. I just had
Yes.
to throw that out there because of your
Oh,
love for tennis, without a doubt.
let me tell you something. It's got it. I believe it. See, one thing I know is I've learned with humility, and this is not arrogant. This is humility. I
Mhm.
know that my words have power,
Manifest.
and yeah, I literally was on a business retreat, and one of the things that I spoke about wanting to do as an additional stream of income was being a chef at retreats.
Mm.
And fast forward, I just co hosted my first wellness retreat in October, and I ended up doing the food for it for the participants. And
Mm.
then I'll also be the chef on another retreat in a few weeks, like second week in December. And there's a possibility that there's another one that I'll be the chef on in April, but more wellness retreats are coming between me and my wellness partner. So and it didn't even, my business coach actually had to remind me that I said that this is what I wanted to do when I told her about, October and December and April, So she's like, you remember how we talked about that last year? And I was like, whoa. And it was in October. It was in October that we talked about it. So we're talking about the US Open now. So I know that it is something that we will absolutely be at. Mm-hmm.
You're speaking everything into existence. And sometimes you have to do that in order just to assure yourself as far as what it is that you want to do with anything in life. I love
Mm-hmm.
that, as a matter
For
of fact.
sure.
Last question before we wrap everything up. If
Okay.
you had the opportunity, Rosetta, to go back in time and talk to yourself, say 10 years ago, what would you tell yourself? And at the same time, with everything that you have going on with lifestyle fitness training and all, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years?
if I had to, if I had to tell myself, if I had to talk to myself back when I first started,
Yeah, 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay, so that was 2013. Okay. Um, mm, if I could talk to her, I would say, don't be afraid. You're good at this. You're good at what you do, and you're only gonna you can only benefit from leaning into your calling. Don't be disobedient to it. Don't try to avoid it, because I did for a long time. So that's what I would tell myself. Lean into it, because you are going to be you're going to make an impact. You're going to make an impact. So lean into it. Um, and then 10 years from now, see, that'll be 2033. I will be 53 years old. Um, it is my hope that, well, I love doing public speaking engagements. So
Hmm.
if that's what I'm doing, just sharing my story or supporting others, continuing in that capacity on my wellness journey, I could still be hosting my wellness membership because I love coaching. That's total zone of genius for me. And um, I would be, again, touring tennis tournaments with my son. He'll be 18 at that point. It'll be me and my husband and my son. So, just fantastic. Yeah. And
Just enjoying life to the
just
fullest,
enjoying
the
life.
best way
Yeah.
you can, without a
Yeah.
doubt. Well, Rosada, if anyone wants to say reach out to you as far as just getting in contact with you and getting an idea, of course, how they can take advantage of your products and your services and stuff like that, and just let the people know what you have coming up as far as going into the end of 2023 and 2024. Now's your time to throw it out there, Rosada.
All right. So, firstly, roseadamarie.com. So, my first name and Marie, like roseadamarie.com. Okay. So, you can go there. You can join my newsletter list, which I don't spam you because I don't have the capacity, or I'm not just, when I send you things, it's because I want you to know, not because it's just
Exactly.
another
Yes.
email. Okay. So, when you sign up for my newsletter, you get my smoothie recipe ebook. All right.
Hmm.
So that's there. So I'm always, I want to be able to be a resource regardless, right? I
Hmm.
want to give in exchange for my ask that you join my list, right?
Right. Right.
So there's that. And so let's see, over the next few weeks, again, I've got the retreat that I'll be doing, I'll be the chef at. And before that, ahead of that, I'll be doing two nutrition education cooking workshops with the Cleveland Clinic. One is for the general population of the particular Cleveland Clinic system that I'll be going to, and the second workshop will be for expectant moms, expectant parents. So I do those things. Let's see, what else do I have going on? Just continuing to, I recently just rolled out a wellness roadmap audit. So all the things that you and I have talked about, when we talk about how we get to that point where we know our why, or we know what we need to focus on, this session allows you to really put things into shape and form so that you can take the next best action step.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and then I teach my class virtually every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And I also have an on-demand library attached to that in case you're not able to catch up with me in real time.
If you haven't figured it out by now, for everybody who's listening to this episode of the HFWB podcast series, Miss Roseada White, she has so much going on. And it's like, that gives you more of the reason for why you need to get into her world of wellness, because I feel like this is the necessary thing I have to say to end this particular episode. If you don't if you don't make time for your overall health, your overall well-being, you're going to be forced to make time for your illness. And I guarantee you, you need to get in contact with Roseada White and all her services. I know I'm going to definitely tap into some of those on-demand stuff myself, just so I can educate myself. And I'm challenging everybody who's listening to the HFWB podcast series to do the exact same thing. With that being said, Roseada, thank you so much for just making time out of your busy schedule to simply bless us with an appearance on the HFWB podcast series. I truly appreciate you. This has been a great conversation, really. It has been.
Thank you for Thank you for regarding me. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you for seeing what you saw in me to say, you know what, I want to hear your story, and I want to hear how you're making an impact. And I'm always a fan of how I can support you in your endeavors. And if this is one of the ways, it was totally my pleasure to do.
Yeah, it's like everyone has a story to tell at the end of the day. So it's like that's all what the HFWB podcast series is all about. That and information being the new money because it makes us rich up here. That's the most
That's
important
right.
thing. With
That's
that
right.
being said, Roseada, thank you so much for just taking time out of your day once again to be a part of the HFWB podcast series. And of course, this is your host, Clifton Pope, signing off. And I encourage y'all to stay healthy, wealthy, and blessed. Till next time, peace and love.